Imagine the most devastating, explosive farewell speech in history. Like, not a polite retirement gathering where everyone just shakes hands and clinks glasses.
Right, where history gets rewritten with this, soft, forgiving glow.
Exactly. We are talking about a parting shot that completely strips away any comforting illusions. So, welcome to this deep dive.
Glad to be here for this one.
But hey, before we plunge into the depths of this ancient text, I want to take a moment to offer you, the listener, a heartfelt divine blessing for your day and for your entire week.
Yeah, absolutely.
May you find incredible clarity and profound enrichment in the journey we're about to take together today. Because, well, the document we're examining today does not pull any punches.
It absolutely does not. I mean, if you're looking for a gentle send-off, you are definitely in the wrong place. This text is like the ultimate prophetic shock to the system.
Yeah, so we are diving into Deuteronomy chapter 32, which is widely known as the Song of Moses. And we're synthesizing some really incredible insights from the Holman and NAA study Bibles to do it.
Two fantastic sources, by the way.
Oh, for sure. But let's set the record straight right from the jump. This isn't just an ancient tome. It operates on so many multiple levels.
Right. It's a legally binding covenantal witness.
Yeah, and a terrifying prophetic warning. And ultimately a deeply tragic personal farewell.
It really is all of those things wrapped into one.
So our mission today is to unpack the psychological depth of this song, to understand the cosmic emotional drama unfolding between a relentlessly faithful God and a famously forgetful people.
And, of course, to witness the poignant final moments of Moses' own life.
Right. And whether you approach this as a historian, a literary critic, or a theologian, I mean, the mechanics of this text are going to challenge how you think about human nature.
Well, it's a text that's basically engineered for confrontation. It's actually structured very much like an ancient Near Eastern covenant lawsuit.
Oh, wow. Like a lawsuit.
Exactly. Moses is essentially acting as the prosecuting attorney, calling heaven and earth to the witness stand. And he's testifying against the very people he has spent his entire life leading.
Man, that is intense. And to understand the central conflict of this lawsuit, we really have to look at how the song immediately frames its two main characters, right? God and the nation of Israel.
The contrast is completely jarring.
Okay, let's unpack this. In the opening verses, God is repeatedly called the Rock. Meanwhile, the people are branded a corrupt, perverse, and crooked generation.
Which is quite the opener.
Right. Starting a farewell address by calling your audience a crooked generation is certainly a choice. But I want to dig into this metaphor of the rock. Because in a modern context, we might hear that and just think of someone who's, emotionally distant or stubborn.
Which is completely the wrong framework for the ancient mind. I mean, you have to think about the
At least
context.
in desert context.
Right. Yes. In a trackless, lethal desert, a rock isn't just a heavy object. It is a literal lifeline. A massive rock formation provides the only shade from a lethal sun.
Oh, wow. Right.
It's the only shelter from a sandstorm. And crucially, it serves as the only fixed landmark when the sand dunes are, constantly shifting and erasing your path.
So it's not just about being unmoving.
No. Calling God the Rock is a declaration of absolute life-saving stability. It is the basis for their sheer survival.
And the imagery the song uses to describe that survival is incredibly vivid. I mean, it says, God found Israel in a howling wasteland of a desert, not just a dry place, but a howling, hostile environment that actively wants to kill them.
Yeah, that word howling really paints a picture, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
And there, God guards them like the apple of his eye, which is an idiom we still use today, referring to the pupil.
Right.
You don't have to think about protecting your pupil. If anything comes near it, your eyelid snaps shut instantly, instinctively.
Okay.
That's the level of reactive protection being described here.
And then it uses this magnificent image of God hovering over them like an eagle carrying its young on its wings.
Which is just so poetic. It's like a parent teaching a child to ride a bike, right? Hovering closely, ready to catch them, providing ultimate security in a dangerous place.
What's fascinating here is that the eagle metaphor is brilliant because it captures the dangerous reality of their environment.
How so?
Well, when an eagle teaches its young to fly, it actually pushes them out of the nest, which is terrifying for the bird.
Wow.
but the parent hovers directly underneath, ready to catch them on its massive wings if they falter.
Wow.
It's a picture of ultimate security inside a context of extreme vulnerability.
It's the ultimate parental safety net, and the text expands on that parental role, describing God as the creator who established them. It even says he separated the nations and set global boundaries according to the number of the sons of Israel.
The implication there is just staggering.
Right. It means the entire geopolitical map of the ancient world was drawn with the specific protection and destiny of this one wandering people in mind. It's a flawless, encompassing divine care.
And, that buildup is a deliberate literary strategy. The text intentionally sets up this flawless divine care to make the coming betrayal feel that much more shocking.
Oh, I see.
By detailing this immense, unmerited privilege, the instinctive protection of the pupil, the majestic rescue of the eagle, the geopolitical structuring of the world, the inevitable betrayal that follows feels, well, astronomically worse.
So the emotional core of this song relies on the sheer disparity between the faithfulness of the rock and the flippancy of the people.
Exactly. It highlights their absolute lack of gratitude.
Which brings us to a really fascinating psychological pivot, because you would logically assume that after surviving a howling wasteland solely because of that intense divine protection, the people would remain, endlessly grateful once they were finally safe.
You would think so.
But the song reveals the exact opposite. It introduces us to this terrifying human reality. Prosperity is the greatest catalyst for spiritual amnesia.
It is the paradox of human dependency. I mean, when you're starving in a desert, relying on daily provision just to survive another 24 hours, your need for a savior is undeniable.
You are acutely aware of your vulnerability.
Right. But what happens when the desert ends?
Well, they don't just survive. They thrive to an almost absurd degree. The text lists this lavish divine provision: honey drawn directly from the rock, oil from flint, curds, milk, the fat of lambs.
And the Bashan rams, too.
Yes, Bashan rams, which were the absolute premium, top-tier livestock of the ancient world, the finest wheat and the blood of grapes, meaning wine. They go from wandering refugees to people stockpiling luxury goods.
And right here, the song introduces a special, highly poetic name for Israel: Jizzarum.
Right, Jezreel. What does that mean again?
Jizzarum translates roughly to the upright one. The study notes explain it's a term of profound affection. It represents the idealized version of Israel, what they were redeemed and called to be.
An upright people reflecting the justice and stability of their rock.
Exactly.
But instead of acting upright, the text delivers this devastating line. It says, Jezreel grows fat, thick, and gorged. And then he begins to kick.
Like a stubborn, spoiled animal.
Yes, he kicks at the very hands that fed him, completely abandoning the God who made him. The psychology here is just so recognizable. They survived the lethal wasteland because of God, only to be entirely ruined by luxury.
It's tragic. The moment they have a surplus of milk and wine, they suddenly believe they're self-sufficient.
And the ultimate expression of that perceived self-sufficiency is their turn to idolatry.
Right, and the song frames this not merely as breaking a legal statute, but as a deep emotional betrayal. The study notes indicate that idolatry was the fundamental sin of Israel.
They begin sacrificing to demons and to new gods that came along recently, gods that their fathers never feared. Why the obsession with new gods? It's like they're chasing a spiritual trend or something.
Well, the appeal of new gods is that they come with no history and, consequently, no moral demands.
Oh, that makes sense.
The historical rock has a track record. He demands holiness, justice, and covenant loyalty. These newly invented local deities, which the text explicitly mocks as having no real historical existence or power to save, are essentially cosmic vending machines.
Cosmic vending machines. I love that analogy. You offer a sacrifice, you get a good harvest.
Exactly. They require no ethical transformation. So Israel trades the historical reality of the God who birthed them for the convenience of empty vanities. It is the ultimate insult to a faithful partner.
Okay, so what does this all mean? How does the betrayed partner respond? The text outlines God's reaction, and it introduces a strategy that I really need you to help me unpack.
Sure, let's get into it.
God essentially says, because Israel provoked me to jealousy with a non-God, these empty idols, I am going to provoke them to jealousy with a non-people.
Yeah.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't this a bit petty? We are talking about a cosmic sovereign creator getting jealous and using lesser nations to play manipulative reverse psychology games. It sounds a bit like high school relationship drama.
It's a totally valid question, and it's one that trips up a lot of modern readers because we associate jealousy with insecurity and toxic control.
Right, exactly.
But in the ancient covenantal framework, jealousy is the appropriate righteous response to the violation of an exclusive relationship. Think of it less like a teenager whose ego is bruised and more like a fiercely devoted spouse who discovers their partner is destroying their family for an illusion.
Wow. Okay, that reframes it completely.
The jealousy of God is an expression of his protective love for his people. He refuses to just let them walk off a cliff.
So the reverse psychology of using a foolish nation is actually a rescue mission.
Exactly. It is a measure for measure disciplinary action. They chose a no God, so God uses a no people, a foolish, disorganized nation, to break their arrogant illusion of self-sufficiency.
And the discipline described is horrifying. The song talks about God's anger as a fire burning down to the very depths of the underworld, to Sheol.
It promises famine, plague, wild beasts, venomous snakes crawling in the dust.
And it uses this chilling phrase, the sword outside, with terror inside. It means there is absolutely no sanctuary. Whether you are on the battlefield or hiding in your bedroom, the consequences of this covenant betrayal will find you.
But then there's a shift.
Yeah, just as the song reaches this crescendo of utter annihilation, God suddenly hits the brakes. He restrains himself. And the reason he gives is fascinating. God explicitly says he won't wipe them out completely because their enemies might proudly misunderstand the situation.
Right, he stops short of total destruction because of his own reputation.
The invading armies might look at the conquered Israelites and say, our hand is triumphant. The Lord didn't do this. We defeated them with our own brilliant military strategy.
Which is just human arrogance.
Exactly. God literally holds back the final fatal blow just so the arrogant enemies don't get the wrong idea and take credit for a judgment that God himself orchestrated. But why does an omnipotent being care so much about what a human army thinks?
Because the core issue of the entire universe, according to this text, is truth. Who is actually sovereign? If God allows a foreign army to annihilate Israel completely, that army will enshrine their own false gods as superior. God will not allow human arrogance or non-existent idols to claim a victory that belongs exclusively to him.
That makes perfect sense.
His discipline of Israel is severe, but his commitment to cosmic truth is absolute. And what's really amazing is that this specific strategy using a no people to provoke Israel echoes thousands of years into the future.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the NAA study notes highlight that the Apostle Paul actually quotes this exact verse from Deuteronomy in his letter to the Romans in chapter 10.
Wow, how does Paul use it?
Paul uses this ancient threat to explain the inclusion of the Gentiles, the non-Jewish world, into the faith. He argues that bringing the rest of the world into relationship with God was meant, in part, to spark that exact redemptive jealousy in Israel.
It proves that God's judgments, even when they seem entirely destructive in the moment, have a profoundly redemptive horizon. The goal is always to draw the people back to the rock.
Precisely.
Here's where it gets really interesting. That struggle for recognition, for establishing who is truly sovereign, leads us directly into the climax of the song. The tone shifts dramatically here.
It is a rhetorical masterclass.
It's no longer the voice of a wounded parent or a betrayed spouse. The cosmic courtroom is called to order, and God steps up as the absolute, unquestionable judge. God declares, vengeance is mine.
The transition is just breathtaking.
He promises to judge his people, but adds that he will show compassion to his servants only when he sees that their strength is completely gone, when every ounce of their self-sufficiency has been burned away.
And then he turns his attention to the false gods.
Yes, he practically cross-examines the void, mocking the idols Israel abandoned him for. He asks, where are their gods? The rock in which they took refuge, the gods who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank their wine, let them rise up and help you now.
It's a theological dismantling. He forces the listener to stare at the utter impotence of whatever they have placed their trust in.
It's a theological mic drop. It forces you to realize the utter uselessness of relying on anything other than the true God.
And that mocking question paves the way for the definitive statement of monotheism in the ancient text. The so-called rocks of the surrounding nations are completely impotent. They offer no help because they are nothing.
And then God delivers this absolute claim. See now that I, even I, am he, and there is no God beside me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal, and no one can deliver from my hand.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the study notes emphasize the absolute sovereignty of God shown here. That verse is the foundational bedrock of divine sovereignty.
It covers everything.
Yeah, God claims ultimate authority over the entirety of the human experience: life, death, wounding, and healing. The text assures the listener that God will eventually provide atonement and salvation for his land and his people. But it will be entirely on his terms, by his own hand.
Because there is no other hand capable of delivering them. It is an incredibly heavy, soaring theological climax.
It really is.
But just as the final notes of this epic song fade, the narrative camera, so to speak, pans away from the cosmic courtroom and focuses back on the exhausted, aging man who just sang it.
We transition from the eternal nature of God to the fragile reality of human life.
Yeah. What happens to Moses after he delivers his magnum opus?
It is one of the most sobering and heartbreaking epilogues in all of literature. Moses finishes the song, turns to the vast crowd of Israelites, and commands them to take every single word to heart.
He tells them to teach it to their children.
Exactly, delivering this stark warning. This is no empty word for you. It is your life.
It is your life. It's not just a poem to analyze. It is the blueprint for their survival. And that very same day, God gives Moses his final marching orders.
God tells Moses to climb Mount Abarim.
Specifically to the peak of Mount Nebo in the land of Moab. From that high vantage point, he is told to look across the Jordan River and view the land of Canaan, the promised land.
But God tells him he will die on that mountain. He will be gathered to his people, just as his brother Aaron died on Mount Hor.
He is permitted to see the culmination of a multi-generational promise, but he is expressly forbidden from stepping foot inside it.
It's a heavy sentence.
I want you, the listener, to really put yourself in Moses' sandals for a moment. Imagine the psychological toll. You've poured 40 years of your life into a single mission. You've dragged a stubborn, complaining, kicking people through a literal howling wasteland.
He mediated their rebellions, endured their idolatry.
And interceded for their lives time and time again. And finally, you arrive at the finish line. You're standing on that windswept peak, looking down at the lush valleys of the land you've dreamed about for decades.
But you know your journey ends on the rock beneath your feet.
It is an excruciatingly bittersweet moment, and the text does not flinch from explaining exactly why this is happening.
No, the historical account is brutally transparent. The reason given is that Moses broke faith. The Hebrew concept here implies a profound trespassing or prevarication against God.
And this happened years earlier, right? At the waters of Meribah Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin.
Exactly.
This was the moment where the people were complaining about having no water, and Moses, pushed to the absolute edge of his patience, strikes the rock with his staff. Instead of speaking to it as God commanded, he let his frustration dictate his actions.
And while it might seem like a minor procedural error to a casual reader, the context is vital. The Holman notes explain that as a leader, Moses had to be a model of citizenship in God's kingdom during a time of extreme tension.
So the public scrutiny matters.
Very much so. In that moment of extreme tension, Moses failed to uphold God's holiness before the people. He acted in a way that made it seem as though he and God were the frustrated providers, blurring the line between his own anger and God's holy nature.
It is a terrifying lesson on the weight of leadership. The standard of accountability is staggeringly high. Even Moses, the man who spoke with God face to face, the man who just delivered this spectacular prophetic defense of God's justice, is not exempt from that very justice.
His failure in that specific moment of disloyalty carried a heavy consequence.
He doesn't get a pass because of his impressive resume. It brings the soaring cosmic themes of the song crashing right back down to the dusty reality of human frailty.
It proves that God is exactly who the song claims he is. He is the rock.
Yeah.
His justice is perfect and impartial.
It applies to the nation, to their enemies, and to his most trusted servant. Moses' death on Mount Nebo is the final, undeniable proof of the song's message.
It's a really sobering reminder.
As we bring this deep dive to a close, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, provocative thought to chew on. Moses commanded the ancient Israelites to memorize this song so that it would serve as a permanent witness against them.
They were supposed to carry it in their minds, a constant reminder of their tendency to forget.
Right. In our own modern lives, how often do we replicate the exact tragedy of Israel? How often do we carry the collective wisdom, the harsh lessons, and the warnings of the past right in our pockets, maybe literally on our smartphones, only to completely ignore them the second our lives get a little too comfortable?
We achieve a little success, we accumulate a little luxury, and suddenly we are infected with Fet Jesurim syndrome.
Yes, we start kicking against the very foundations, the very people, and the very principles that kept us alive when we were wandering in our own wastelands.
Is the eternal human blind spot. We are far too eager to forget the terror of the howling wasteland the moment we get a taste of the honey.
We really are. We open this discussion by noting that this text wasn't a comforting, nostalgic farewell. It's a ticking time bomb of a document.
An ancient alarm bell.
Exactly, an alarm bell warning us to look very closely at the rocks we're taking refuge in, because the desert always, inevitably, returns. Thank you so much for joining us on this demanding and fascinating journey today. God blesses all the listeners. See you next time.